Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to the Talk Python VS Code. Ask us anything. As you can see, it's not just a me; it's a many of us. We have the two authors behind our VS Code course, Brian Clark and Cecil Phillip. Welcome, guys. Love having you here. And Karthik and Luciana from the VS Code team. So cool you could make it here and represent the official product team as well. So it's going to be very cool to talk to you all. So this is an audience participation sort of experience. So please, audience, participate and put your questions in here into the live chat. But to kick things off, let's just jump over to a couple of questions. We had folks fill out a form if they had questions they wanted to ask beforehand. So let's start out with a big one.
I'm a part of the audience. Is that cheating? Can I be a part of the audience too and ask questions?
You can absolutely ask questions. Yes, let's do it.
All right. I just want to make sure we're all straight on the rules. Okay.
No, the rules are, Cecil, that there's no rules.
I love it. Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it. Okay. Let's kick it off with this. Let's talk about something that's pretty unique. And this one comes from Moshen asking about dev containers. It basically just says, tell us more about dev containers. I think it said something a little bit longer and I shortened it so it fit on the screen. But yeah, dev containers. Folks, what are these things?
Yeah, I really love dev containers. So think about it this way. If you know what a container is, right? You think about a Docker container or a containerd thing or Podman or like anything that can create a container, like a bundled set of processes and self-contained images. Essentially, a dev container kind of just gives you the ability to like configure all of your tools, your development tools, your runtimes, your extensions, your configurations, like whatever you need for an environment to start doing work on, kind of like a workspace or your own personal mini workshop, right? That's kind of what it is. And I think it's really great, one, like I said, to like create some of those reproducible development workshops. But then for me, I use it a lot when I want to like switch between different types of work that I've done. And I think it's really helpful for that. So now I'm not reconfiguring my entire machine. I have like, again, these isolated workspaces that I could create that maybe I'm doing Python stuff today and I'm doing .NET stuff and I'm doing stuff for work. And maybe I'm doing like some open source stuff, right? Maybe I'm working on docs with Markdown, right? I can have these dev containers all with their own settings and configurations and they don't like conflict with each other, right? Like no one's stepping over the other one. And it just gives me, again, like this really great way to make like these isolated workspaces that I can have on my machine.
Yeah, awesome. That's super cool. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, essentially what Cecil said there is like how I view dev containers. Where I've kind of dabbled in it a little bit is like I have a spare machine behind me that I have Docker running and I can use that as like my dev container to isolate my projects and I don't have to pollute the overall machine or this main machine that I'm working off of. That's been my main jam or use case that I've had with dev containers that I greatly appreciate. Because I don't like the other thing is like I don't even want to have containers on this machine, even though this is my better machine. I'd rather have it on another machine that can be the one that has all the stuff installed on it and whatnot. Or it could be
you burn up its hard drive with a bunch of images and it's not a big deal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That way this one stays free and clear and lasts longer.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What I really like about the dev containers extension for VS Code is that it really allows you like to have a smoother connection to your dev container. So you basically everything that you're using VS Code for your Python development, the Python interpreter, the debugger, the formatters, all of it is running inside the container environment, but it really feels like a local experience because the UI is actually running locally on a machine. And then what I really like about it is that I am not a super expert on like Docker files and all of these configurations. So it does have a command to add a dev container files for you and the configuration. So there's a lot of templates depending on the types of projects that you want to work on. So if you want to do like Python with like a Postgres database, they have a template for that. And then you don't have to stress about all the different configurations. Of course, you can still edit all these files and then include or remove things, but at least it just, for me, streamlines the process as well of configuring dev containers. So I definitely recommend folks to check it out if you're using VS Code dev containers extension.
Yeah, and if you have a repository with a dev container, I think you can also set it up to be pre-built and you can use that in code spaces.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
true, spaces as well.
Yeah, yeah. I've absolutely gotten the Docker religion lately. It's really nice to just be able to just one command have a whole bunch of infrastructure put together just right. And that also is true for development. Like the more tiers and services, using Redis and you're using Postgres and you're using Python and Fast API or whatever, like the more those pieces come together, the less you have to explain about that and just let it happen is sweet.
And you use Docker for a lot of your stuff, right? Like typically you use Docker Compose to like bring together all the pieces of your app, right?
Yeah. I used to have a bunch of different servers running all the TalkPython things, and now I have one big server with like 8 CPUs, and it's got, I think, 16 separate infrastructure chunks together, maybe a front end and a database back end type thing and stuff, all running on the same machine, one command, and they're all just updated and running smooth and tidy. It's fantastic.
Sorry, Michael.
No problem, Brian. If we get time to talk about it, my favorite feature of VS Code actually is exactly about that, Cecil. Go ahead, Brian.
So one thing I will add to answer the question from Mohsen was that it's a resource. The VS Code team and the advocates, the cloud advocates over at Microsoft, they do a lot on YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that, or not Instagram, TikTok and whatnot. And Gwyneth, lately, I've seen a lot of content from them about dev containers, like how to get set up for whatever language you're using. It has been super useful. And also shout out to Gwyneth because they have a voice that is like amazing, that I feel like they could have an alternate career in like doing voiceover work or like audiobook reading. Like it's just very relaxing, and it like makes learning about dev containers like super chill and relaxing to hear. So if folks haven't seen that, go check out the content over on the VS Code channel.
Amazing. Karthik, you mentioned the code spaces. I want to just do a quick follow-up on that because that's kind of an extension or a farther idea of this dev container story.
Right. So like in some of the repositories that we have dev containers created, and in GitHub, you have an option under, I think, code spaces, if you have enabled that, where you can pre-build that dev container. So whenever someone wants to do development work, they can just, run the code spaces with the pre-built container, and it just sets up faster rather than you have to wait for everything to get installed. You just immediately can start working on your thing.
So basically starting a container from a pre-built image, right? And that's all there's to it, which is super fast. Yeah. Okay.
And you develop on the web. You don't even have to have anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say that what's nice is that you can have like this full development environment on the browser. It's running on like a VM, and it can be as powerful as you want. And of course, it is a paid feature that I think there are free trials and things like that. But if you want a really beefy machine, you can configure that, and then you just have all of that running and that VM, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, excellent. All right, let's move on. So we make sure we get through some questions. That was really good, though. So the next one comes from Cedric, who's asked a couple questions, and I'll put this one out there first for now. It says, and this is why it's awesome to have Karthik and Luciana here, is there plans to support mono repos that can have multiple Python interpreters? And so mono repos are kind of mono repos are kind of crazy. It's like we're going to take our entire source code for our whole company and just put it into one GitHub repo or Git repo, and then just work on sections of it. Craziness, but also starting to be a popular way to make things work for dependencies. Karthik, are you guys thinking about this?
Yes. So this is something that is coming. I'm currently working on getting some of these things right, because we have first-party packages that also have mono-repo-ish kind of layouts, and especially Azure SDK, I think, has a huge repository with a massive number of packages that are laid out in that manner. So yes, I am currently working on that. to make it a lot easier to work with multiple Pythons, multiple different environment managers, while still trying to make it as seamless as possible with setting these things up.
Okay, that's excellent. Yeah.
Right.
Brian Cecil, you guys do anything with mono repos? You live in that crazy world?
I'm not currently, but one other scenario I could see people having is, you were mentioning like taking all the projects, but in the sense of like a company's maybe taking the approach of microservices, right? They might have different APIs and different teams support each API and that type of thing, all within the same repo. So I could see that being another use case for why you would want to be able to support multiple Python interpreters in VS Code at the same time.
Yeah.
There is also an interesting thing, like with Web 723, the one that allows you to define dependencies inline as a comment. Right? It basically means that a single file can have its own environment. Right. So the shift, there is a shift in like how environments and managements and everything has to be done in that kind of a world. So we are looking into making that whole experience better.
Oh, excellent. That's good to hear. Yeah. All right. Next one is TMUX screen multiplexing support on the roadmap. Last question, the second question from Cedric. I know people love TMUX. I don't use it. I'm not sure. It's kind of like Vim. I know people love it. I don't necessarily know why they love it, but I know they do. If anyone uses that here.
I actually don't know about this one. Highly likely, a good thing would be to ask this on the VS Code repository, and hopefully we'll be able to answer that better there.
Yeah, there's nothing that I am aware of. But the other interesting thing about the VS Code team is that they do keep their iteration plan public. We also do that in the Python extension. So you can always go to the VS Code repo or the VS Code-Python repo, and that's where you have like all of our plans. So not that I'm aware of so far, but good that there's interest. Follow me from the VS Code repo, and then people will directly to the right place there.
Yeah, it's a pinned item. You should be able to find it in the issues. It's a pinned issue, both on the Python extension and on the VS Code.
Brian Cecil, you guys TMUX?
Yeah.
No, I've never used it. So I'm on a Mac most of the time, and I just whatever I could get out of iTerm, that's the one that I usually use.
Yeah, I'm on Team Warp.dev now.
Ooh, nice.
How do you like Warp?
I like it. It's pretty good. It's not. There's parts where I don't love it as much as say like the Oh My Z Shell extension and other, but in general, it's winning. Yeah, it's really good.
So you can't add Oh My Z Shell to Warp?
You can, but a lot of the features that Oh My Z Shell provides, like the history and stuff, it has its own version that takes precedent over it. So it kind of obscures it, I guess. Yeah, in a way, but it's pretty sweet. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I'm with you. Yeah, it doesn't. See what you can get out of that. Like I don't need multiple tabs or multiple split windows in a shell. It's not my style.
Which you can kind of do that already with the built-in terminal in VS Code. You can
that's true. You can
split those that way. That's why I personally have not. I mean, I understand people like their tools and they stick with it, and no shade on that. I've just found that to be useful for me. And I guess that's led me to not have a need for something like TMUX and that type of thing.
Brandon, somebody told me you're using Vim in your VS Code. Is that not true? Is that not what's been going on?
That'll be the day. I wish. I mean, that would be maybe one way I can ease my way into getting better with that. But the best I can do right now is like go in, edit a file, and quit. So,
wait, you can quit?
Yeah, I've
managed to just end process.
He's found the magic key. How do I get out of
found the answer. I found the answer online, but I can't share it. Sorry.
That's reboot. That quits it. All right, next question. What's the best way to debug through like breakpoints and stuff? A web server running in Docker Compose. Can you do that with plugins for Docker and Python? Ask Arthur.
Yeah. So in our course, in Romeo Brand's course, we don't talk about Docker per se, but if you have the Docker extension for VS Code and the VS Code and the Python extension for VS Code, like you can debug into the container, right? And it's literally as simple as saying, I think the menu item is called add assets for running and debugging or something like that, and it'll generate that .vs code folder with the launch settings and the .task file, and it'll generate stuff for you. And literally all you do is press a button. Now, obviously you can go in and you can tweak it if you want to. Personally, I just copy paste it because I don't really know what all is going on in there sometimes. But like you could just generate it, right? And it'll debug into it for you. So regardless of if it's just a single container or you're using Compose with like multiple containers and they're all talking to each other, like you should be able to debug into your process, right? So you're not going to debug into like Postgres or something, right? But like you're going to debug into your process, and you should be able to, just use the regular debug experience that's in VS Code, right? So breakpoints and watches and all that other stuff that like works as it does out of the box, right?
Yeah, that's right. Actually, if you want to know how it actually does that, what we do is we ship the debugger debug.py in the Python extension as a package, right? It gets volume mapped into the container, and then it triggers debug.py over the on whatever project you are trying to run, on the script that you are trying to run. So you can simulate this if you want to do this manually yourself. You like, let's just say that you don't want to use any of this infrastructure, you want to do all of this manually yourself. Basically, on the VS Code side, you have to set up the debug configuration with listen mode. There is literally, like you say, Python attach configuration, and the configuration type would be listen, and you provide your host name and something, and it will start. When you start the session, it will start in listen mode, and then you can trigger your container to launch. And as long as you are triggering it with debug.py in connect mode there, and you provide the same host and port number, they will talk to each other. And that's what basically the Docker extension does underneath for you in a hidden way. So you don't need to have debugger installed in your container. We can volume map it in there, and then make this connection work for you. That's what's happening.
Nice. That's
Very
good
cool.
to know. And when you say
Docker magic.
when
Go,
you say
Brian.
the configuration, you're talking about like the launch configuration in VS Code to tell it to attach to a Docker container that's running.
Actually, it's the other way around. So you tell the VS Code side to listen, and you talk out from the container.
Okay.
That way you don't have to do like timeout when your container is starting, right? Yeah, it can take any time. But you can set it up for the other way too, where you can have the container be in listen mode and you connect from VS Code to that. But there you have to ensure that the container starts first and then you start your connection. So you have to deal with timeouts and things like that. So this other way is what we use.
Nice. That's good to know.
So Karthik, I got a question for you. So if I'm using something like multi-root node workspaces, right? So I have different Python applications in the same window, right? And can I debug through all of those? Would the debugger run through all of them, assuming that they're all running? Can I do that, or would I have to do like a workspace at a time?
Are they all start?
They're all started.
Yes, you can. You can debug through. So the debugger supports multi-process debugging, and it'll handle all processes for
Nice.
you. Yeah,
That's pretty excellent. Awesome. Let's keep on this same topic for just a second here. I didn't attribute this one, so whoever asked it, I appreciate it. How do you debug older, like Python 3, Python 3.6, 3.7 runtimes?
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I know where this went from. Go ahead, Luciana.
Yeah. Well, first a disclaimer here. So even Python 2.7, a lot of people keep telling us like, oh, I can no longer debug with this older versions of Python with the latest Python extension. So the thing is, when these Python versions are no longer supported by Python itself, that's when we usually start no longer supporting them in the Python extension as well. So Python 3.7 reached I don't remember when it
In
reached.
the life last year, I think. Yeah, 3.8's
Yeah, right.
the latest, and not for
Um,
long. This fall it'll be 3.9's the latest.
Yeah. So we usually always put in our release notes when we're like dropping support, and dropping support means like we are not going to be actively fixing bugs. So it's not like we're going to break necessarily. But for debugging all of these things, like we don't guarantee support for it anymore. So a lot of times it does mean that we make changes that no longer work for older versions. But for that reason, we understand that a lot of people can't just upgrade Python easily. That's not very easy. We empathize with that. So one thing that we've done is we broke the support for our debugger into a separate extension. So we have the Python debugger extension. It's shipped alongside the Python extension right now. So if you install the Python extension, you should also get the Python debugger one. But the reason why we broke it off is that now you can downgrade the Python debugger extension to an older version that supports 3.6 debugging, for example, and then keep the Python extension up to date with all the latest changes. So, for example, whenever Karthik ships his monorepo changes and whatever updates that we keep making to the Python extension, you can still have them while pinning the debugger to an older version, so you can still debug with older versions of Python.
Okay.
A little thing I want to say, that from the internals point of view of the debugger, so there is a bunch of C++ code there where we do a we hook into the CPython APIs for us to debug better. And what happens is every time there is sometimes even when there is a minor version change or a major version change, there are some API breakages that we have to keep handling in the C++ code. And we typically remove some of this as we are progressing the debugger version. So what we have done is basically with the extension, we snapshot it to the time where the last known good worked for that particular version, and so you get everything up to that point. So like the 3.6 version of the thing or extension handles 2.7 as well. So up to that point, it'll work. And then we have a separate snapshot that handles 3.7, and then the latest snapshot that handles everything with 3.8 all the way to 3.12. And with the new APIs coming in with 3.12 with the sys monitoring, we are actually working on getting the debugging switched over to use sys monitoring. So
that's
so
cool.
we have,
Yeah,
so,
that'll be cool. Like taking advantage of that, all those performance improvements and the stuff the CPython team's doing.
Yeah. Let me know if you think this would be. Let me know if this is a bad idea or not. Sometimes I have bad ideas. So if you have a dev container, right, you can have extensions installed in your dev container. So when you start it up, VS Code has a particular version of a dev container. So would it be possible for folks to just pin a particular version of the Python extension in the dev container, so that when they load it up, they get this very specific version of the, they don't get the latest one, but they get this one. This is the one that works for me, so I want to keep it, right? Is that, I know that's not a supported use case, but is that an option that folks can do?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you just need to say the extension ID at the version number.
Yeah,
and then that'll pin it to that version.
Gotcha.
Cool. I didn't know that, so thank you.
It's not a bad idea. It's a good idea, Cecil.
Well, so you never know it's good until you're done. So that's let me ask, and I ask with a disclaimer.
All right, let me look here real quick. Here we go. Got one from the audience, the SF and F junkie. We've got multi-window, multi-screen per window DPI, so I can use my 14-inch 1080p laptop and my 32-inch 4K monitor at the same time. Just needs a little update to Electron. What do you guys got going on there?
That should be already in there now, right? Luciana and Karthik?
Yeah.
As of like two versions ago, 2 months ago or so?
Yeah.
Or longer.
There was an update to the newer version of Electron, and we have folks who keep working on getting it to getting the latest version of Electron supported.
Awesome. Yeah, well, looks like just give it another try there, junkie. Fabulous. I'm going to follow Cecil's lead here, and I'm going to throw out a question of my own to the four of you, and let me know what you think. So my wife was working on this research project, talking to a bunch of people, And they're like, look, we're going to pick a language. We're going to pick R or Python. And this is going to be for a bunch of teachers and schools. And the schools are Chromebook schools. So most people are using Chromebooks to do their programming. And apparently there's some way that they had in mind of doing R. And they're like, well, we don't know how to do Python there. So we don't think we're going to do Python. We're going to do R for all the kids instead, because you can't do Python in the Chromebook. I'm like, hold on. One, I think you can. Two, this dev container and code spaces stuff plus VS Code sounds like a really good experience potentially for what they're doing. But what do you all think?
Code
Chromebooks?
spaces and notebooks.
Yeah, I was thinking also notebooks potentially. Yeah. Exactly.
That's my short answer, but I'll let other people expand upon that.
Yeah,
I think we
I
have
agree
an
with Brian,
experimental.
but-
Sorry, go ahead, Cecil.
No, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
The latency.
Yeah,
this is
sorry.
a lot.
I'm having a little bit of internet connections issues here. Sorry, but I was going to say, Karthik, we have the experimental Python extension on the browser for VSCode.dev too, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So right now, if you go to VSCode.dev or GitHub.dev, basically it's a lightweight version of VS Code that works on a browser. It doesn't offer full support like VS Code, like you don't have a terminal or anything like that. But we do have like a Python experimental for the web extension that where you're able to run some scripts in the browser. Right now, I don't think it supports like packages and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's really, if you're like doing just learn some basic learning and all of it, that can be helpful as well.
Yeah, that was my first thought as well. But then I'm like, oh, but you can't do packages. And if there's anything like, let's use pandas or whatever, then it's kind of out, you know. I wasn't sure exactly what they were trying to do with their language here.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we got a few minutes left. I think maybe we want to do just a lightning round of extensions. Like everybody gets to pick a favorite extension. Does that sound fun? Let's do it. All right, we'll wrap it up with that. All right. Hold on here. I'll go top to bottom in the visual bit here. So, Karthik?
Rough. RUF.
Rough. Yeah, rough. Oh, yeah. I'm using rough on all the things now, and I love it. And it's super fast. It's like Black, but it also makes changes, not just suggests changes, which is awesome. Yeah. You guys like rough?
I love it. It's wonderful. If people didn't know, it basically implements. So the rough underlying the tool rough implements pretty much a lot of the commonly used linters like PyLint and Flake8, and many of the Flake8 plugins are all implemented in Rust. And then the rough tool provides bindings into the Rust itself. So it basically calls the Rust version of all of these rules that they have implemented. And they also recently did iSort and Black implementations as well. So it can do your import sorting and your formatting. There are some differences in there, but I think they have implemented most of Black stuff, and it's incredibly fast. Like you have like thousands of files in like milliseconds fast.
Yeah, it seems like it doesn't work. You're like, there's no way it does anything.
Yeah.
All right, Luciana.
I'll go with VS Code Pets. That's my favorite extension.
Oh yeah, I already got the VS Code Pets pulled up. Yeah, that's a fun one by Anthony Shaw. It just puts little pets. Are you a cat or a dog person? What's happening here?
I love dogs, but I am a cat person. I have 2 cats. So.
Okay, awesome. If you just need a little bit of friendly creatures walking around as you write some code, it's beautiful.
Nice.
For mental health, definitely.
Yes, exactly. Like I just need to take a break and think about my cat. Okay.
Can you move them around, or are they like always like in that same area, or can you put them in like different places?
So I don't think you control them, but you can throw balls, and then if a ball like touches them, they will interact. You can also add multiple animals, and not just animals. You have Clippy there too, and then they do interact with each other. They talk. If you click on them, I think they do talk to you. That are like bubble chats.
They're debating what my code looks like when I'm writing it.
Yeah,
He really doesn't know what he's
a lot
doing.
of feedback. Really great feedback that I get from my pets.
That's awesome.
Amazing. All right, Cecil.
I'm a big fan of the REST client, mostly because I spend most of my dev time writing some API of some sort, and being able to like just have one window. Because we all talk about like context switching, right? Like the less windows I have to go between, the better, right? And so I love the fact that I could like build my APIs in my language, and like go through this this testing UI, instead of like having to get Postman or some other terminal or something like that.
Awesome. Brian.
All right, so I'm going to take the liberty to share two. One serious one, which would be Copilot, which you're seeing right at the top there, because while it's not always perfect every time, it's really accelerated my
15
work.
million times.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It's crazy good at speeding up my workflow and just figuring out like what I want a lot of times. So I'll call that out, as it's saving me time, and I've been using it a lot lately. And then the fun one I would say is Power Mode. So that one, it's basically like something that you can turn on that when you're typing, it like throws fireworks or something like that as you're. Yeah, it's
I am coding. Brian, if you were in like a hacker movie and you had to save the day, this is what it would look like as you typed.
Yes. Power mode engaged, like yeah. So
you've got 10 seconds.
That's a fun one.
Just hang on, I'm almost there.
So good.
That's amazing. All right, a couple of other ones. We asked people in the forum to build out what other ones they recommend. So I'll just give that a lightning round sort of thing. So reveal button adds a little button to different parts of your project, your workspace. You can just click it and it reveals in Finder or Explorer. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gitmoji are awesome. So Gitmoji gives you an autocomplete of a whole bunch of emoji-based pre-canned get statements for what you did. So you don't have to really think about it's just update the docs and a little doc icon. The pets, and then the one that I'm going to pick is the remote development using SSH stuff. That's really good stuff. So Cecil mentioned the Docker stuff that I'm doing, and just fire up VS Code, point it at the server, and I get access to all the compose and Docker files and everything there, and it's so much better than trying to go over there and Vim my way around a bunch of different files and different structures and stuff. And yeah, super easy to set up. It's pretty much automatic once you get the remote SSH editing client or whatever it's called installed.
All right, being that you're going to be doing that SSH and you're talking about Vim, it's difficult for you. I'll share how to quit it with you off stream. Okay.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, because I've just been rebooting every time, and it's really a hassle. It's really a hassle.
Joke never gets old, right?
I know it never does. Never does. Okay. Just a little feedback from Teddy. Love VS Code. Thank you all for the great work across all the stuff all of y'all do. And there's a bunch of nice questions that came in right at the end. And yeah, I think we're unfortunately a little bit out of time. Maybe we can just do one more because this one's, I think, relevant. Like, hey, I'm using Spider, and I was able to part of the reason Spider's come from the Anaconda side of things, IDE that's been around for a while, because I'm able to execute code selections in IPython on the fly and get access to the variable window. Plans to support IPython and interactive data science more in VS Code. I guess that's to the team most likely.
The Jupyter extension already supports an interactive window. If you have IPython installed in your environment, it does offer you this interactive experience with access to a variable window, with plot viewers and all of it. But we do have plans to support a better REPL experience if you're not looking into like plots or anything like that. You just want like more of like an IPython experience. I'll let Karthik talk more about these plans.
Yeah, so we are working on a lightweight interactive window experience where you can just send text from your file into the interactive window and like start having it execute your code, and you can type in there and you can get some completion in that input window as well. And then you also we are still working on it, but you'll also get a variable viewer that you can look at the current state of your environment.
All right.
Execution.
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
got one more question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
This is for Luciana and Karthik. So VS Code Day is coming up next week, I think it is, right? I was just trying to look it up real quick.
Correct.
Are there any
Yes,
Python-specific sessions that people should check out that you would recommend?
Thank you for asking. Yes, so on, I think VS Code Day starts on April 23. On April 24th, we have at least two Python sessions. So there's one building a RAG-powered AI chat app with Python and VS Code by Pamela Fox. And there's also one about building a Django app with persistent storage by Don Wages. So do check it out. It's free. You can register online. VS Code Day. It's coming up.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. It's been really fun. This is Brian's fault. Let's close it out with a quick little joke here. So, you go to Google, you can type "how do I" or "tell me something." If you type "how to quit smoking," Facebook, sugar, Vim. Or there's always the Samuel L. Jackson. Say that can't quit joke. Vim can't quit joke again.
I'm sorry, Samuel. I won't do it again.
Yeah, man. All right, y'all. Thank you, and thank you everyone who watched and asked questions. And yeah, it's great. See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for having me.